I thought I'd share with you today one of my favourite subjects. It's my favourite subject because mostly people ask me about it all the time. And it's really the concept of the difference between what you need and what you want. And really, it comes from the question that I get asked most often, and that is, Paul, look, how come can't make myself do the things that I want to do? Which last time when I did them, they worked really well. For example, I was going to the gym, I was enjoying it, I was getting great results, and it was working for me, and it was affecting my mental health fantastically and positively, and I just stopped. So how come I just stopped? Of course, sometimes I hear that question in reverse, and that is how come I can't stop myself doing the things that I want to stop myself doing, which the last time I stopped doing them, it was absolutely fantastic. Like I stopped smoking, and when I stopped smoking, I felt better, I could breathe better, I was happier, I was waking up better, my entire life was better, including I had a bit more money around, and all of a sudden I just took it up. I went to a party, had a few drinks, and I started smoking. How come I do that? And most people turn up to me with that kind of like a mystery. Why, I am a mystery to myself. Of course, as a professional, I find it amusing that people that I've never met before expect me to know them better than they know themselves. So we sit down and we have a conversation. I say, well, look, how does it go like this? If you did enough of what you need, you would end up with everything that you want. But if you do too much of what you want, you will never have what you need. And they go, could you kind of make sense with that? Because it sounds like a sort of a thing that you say that sort of has got some background meaning behind it. So I go for an illustration, and the illustration boils down to this. If you had 10% of every dollar you've ever earned, how much would you have? Would that be a big pile of money or a little pile of money? Now, if you're like me and you've been in the workforce for 40 or 50 years, then the chances are that would be an enormous pile of money. How come it's not there? Why is it that every Australian doesn't have an investment strategy running because they got some savings, put it to work, and away that it went? Well, the reality is we didn't get in front of what we want. So when I got out of Teachers College and I got my first job at Teachers College, I was earning $12 a week. I don't know if I was earning it right. That was the allowance, was $12 a week. And that was enough to be permanently, under the influence of alcohol, I think. The very first year that I'm a school teacher, I'm earning $70 a week. This is take-home money in both cases, by the way, so tax and all that taken care of. So I go from 12 to 70. By the way, this is a long time ago. It's in the 1970s, so those numbers might seem small, but they were pretty big at the time. So in any case, from 12 to 70 simply means a quantum leap. And you'd think that I'd have heaps of money. But I didn't, because I needed to buy a car to get to work, because work was about 50 kilometres away. So I needed a car or some kind of transport that was going to cost some money. I needed to buy clothes that were respectable, that I could turn up as a professional in my field. There was a whole bunch of tools I needed to buy, and there was a whole bunch of expenditure. So I had about $3,000 or $4,000 worth of expenditure that I needed to get into, to actually get into the job. So I did that. So there I am with $3,000 or $4,000 worth of debt and $70 in, so the debt in that hand and the $70 in that hand. The theory says I should have got $7 out of that 70 and put it off into the investment strategy. That's what I needed to do. But I did what I wanted to do, which was to pay as much of the debt as I could, and buy some food and lodging and all of that, rent, etc. And so what happened was that whole entire $70 got sucked up into trying to get break even, trying to kind of make things be okay. Well, what if I'd have kept going? Well, eventually I'd have paid off the debt and I'd have an investment strategy running, and that would have, if you had an investment strategy running from the early 1970s, how would it be going now? It wouldn't matter what you bought back then. You'd have made a fortune. So the reality is most Australians don't do that. Now, really, I'm just using money to illustrate a concept that's critically important for us. If you put 10% of your day into being fit and healthy, organising what's good for you to eat, getting the right kind of exercise, I'm going to suggest to you, if you don't have to do that first part of the day, although for many people it does work best if you go to the gym first, but as part of your priorities, if you made sure that 10% of your time expenditure went into your fitness and health, where do you think your fitness and health would be if you did that every day? If you put 10% of your time into making sure your primary relationship with your spouse or your children or whoever's important to you, if you put 10% of your time and you invested it into those relationships, would it come back with interest? And the short answer, of course it would. So that's what we need to do, but it's not what we want to do. What we want to do is we want to get the bills paid, we want to get things taken care of, and most of us just murder those time allocations, and we end up frustrated because we're not getting what it is that we really want. And so really what we're talking about here is that doing what you want can be an issue for most people because it's not doing what you need. Really, this is a concept of self-parenting. As I grow up and I become in charge of my life instead of my parents running it for me, then I get to be the boss, and so I start to say how things go. And if I felt like there wasn't enough chocolate around when I was a kid, there's going to be chocolate around when I'm a parent. I don't need the chocolate, I want the chocolate. Too much chocolate and I'm never going to get what I need, which is to be fit and healthy. I'm not really just talking about chocolate, I'm talking about treats and unhealthy food and all those sort of things. At another level, if I'm in charge of my life and I felt like I wasn't in charge of it before, now that I'm the boss, I can let me stay up late and I can watch TV and I can go till 2 o'clock in the morning if I want to because I'm the boss now. The problem is I'm self-parenting, but I'm doing it in a pathetic manner because I'm giving me what I want instead of what I need. And every one of us actually needs at least one night a week where you just jump up and say to yourself at 8:30 in the evening, you know what, I'm going to bed because it's what I need. I need a big, long sleep just to recover from what's been going on for the last week or so, or to prepare myself for the week that's coming up. But rarely do we do what we need because mostly we do what we want. And our wants start to nag away at us. They start to become compulsions because the harder I work, the more time that I put into my projects or whatever it is, whether it's a job, whether it's a family, the more I go at that, the less me time there is, and so the more I want something for me. And if I want something for me, but we're out of time, well, maybe I'll just have a drink or a chocolate or some junk food and treat myself, and it feels like a treat. Like an ice cream feels like a treat or whatever. So the reality is I treat myself with treats that are not what I need, but they're definitely what I want, and so I end up not getting what I ultimately want. So the reality is what we have to do is if you're ever going to get mastery over yourself, you're going to have to deal with the wounded child in you that's still screaming out, what about me? You know that song, what about me? It isn't fair. All of that stuff really simply means that the child that is still within you is still running the show. And the problem with that is if the child is running the show, rarely are we going to get a good outcome. So what do we need to do? Well, I've got 4 things that I think are going to make a difference for you. Why do I say that? Well, because they've made a difference for my clients. When I get to deal with hundreds of people in a year, thousands of people, I've got some kind of pretty good information to give you about what works and what doesn't. So number 1, make a list of what you most urgently need. Not most urgently want, but most urgently need. Most of us urgently need a savings and investment strategy that overcomes the current financial situation. Sure, I know it's easy to get in a situation where we don't earn enough. What most of us don't do is cut back on our lifestyle so that what we earn covers what we do. We're not willing to do that. Okay, fine, go earn some more money. But get what you need. What you need is some more income or some less expenditure. Because when you do that, you're going to make a difference. But I'm just talking about money. Maybe what you need is to spend more time with your kids. Maybe what you need is more time walking on the beach or in the forest. So make a list of what you urgently need for your own well-being. You'll find on that list, if you're fair income with yourself, a better exercise program, a better nutrition program, more rest, more me time. That's probably pretty much what goes on everybody's list. There'll be a whole lot of other things that you urgently need as well. Rest, recuperation, revitalisation, those kind of things. I'm talking about the common ones. So make the list. Now, the list is no use. It's just a list, all right? So a shopping list is no use if you leave it at home. So when you've got a list, the next thing for you to do is to commit to showing up. So if I need to go to bed early, then what I need to do is actually go to bed early. There's a difference between knowing and doing. We call it wisdom. So to know it doesn't mean anything. We all know that we should exercise better and go to the gym more often. That doesn't mean we do it. So we know it, but doing it is wisdom. So we need to show up. So there's no point making that list unless you're going to do something about getting more of what's on the list into your life. Perhaps one of the most important things you could do at that level is look at that list and say, who would be willing to help me? Who not do it for me? Who would be willing to be my accountability buddy? Who would show up and say, hey, sharpen up. You're letting yourself down and you're letting me down because I've committed to be in this with you and you said you were going to do it and you're not being of your word. You're actually lying to yourself. So someone who's willing to be your accountability buddy, not take responsibility for you, but to tell you the truth. because most of us don't like to hear the truth. But if you ask someone to tell you the truth, then the chances are you probably need to hear it, and make sure you don't attack the accountability buddy because they're doing what you ask them to do. That's number 3 on the list. Number 4 is kind of like a more generalised thing, and that is to say, watch out what you're teaching your kids. We teach by demonstration, not by lectures. And so we're teaching our children anyway. So if you want your children to grow up and be able to have warm, healthy relationships, well, you better demonstrate how to have warm, healthy relationships by working on that. If you want your children to grow up and be fit and healthy, you better get yourself fit and healthy so they can see what needs to be done to make that happen. When they see you committing the time to get up in the morning, go off to the gym and arrive back but before they've got out of bed, and you can be happy and bright and helping with breakfast and all of those sort of things, what they see is that you value that because you put time into it. They think that you don't value them because you don't put time into them. So remember, no matter what you're doing, you're teaching your children. The thing is, are you teaching them what you want to teach them? If they grow up like you, would you be happy? That's the important thing for us to understand. Now, as you go through all of that, I'm here to say, as your coach, so to speak, just watch out for who you become. You're going to be pretty impressed with that person because you're going to elevate your self-respect, because every time you do something that you need to do instead of what you want to do, you elevate self-respect. And I'm here to tell you, self-respect is a doorway to self-love. Self-respect leads to self-love.